Welcome back to another episode of Inside the Vault. I'm Douglas Long, Curator of Natural History at the Museum of Riverside, and I have Gabriella again.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for tuning in to another episode, and thank you for joining us today. I'm excited to delve into what we have here on the table. Most people might just think, oh, it's some birds, but a lot more
Stuffed
to
birds.
it. Yeah. Now, why are these so important, and why are we showcasing them today?
Excellent question, but I'm going to rewind just a little bit.
Sure.
And just talk about museum exhibits in a general sense. And when
Okay.
people come into a museum, especially that has natural history collections, they're going to want to see the bears and the mountain lions and the stuffed mountain goats and the
Fair.
birds. And one of the reasons why people come to the museum to look at the bird mounts we have, and these are what we call live mounts or life mounts. It's a way in which the taxidermist has prepared the bird in sort of a lifelike pose, what it would normally be doing if it's flying, if it's fighting, or courtship behavior, or on a nest.
Yeah.
And so people are able to study these to get information about birds in their backyard. So they might be interested in bird watching, they might be interested in just local natural history. And so by having these life mounts, they can see the birds close up that are otherwise really hard to see, and understand their colors, their shapes, so that they end up leaving the museum with a better knowledge of how to identify these birds. And this is what most people think of. However, the bulk of museum collections actually have these research specimens that are called study skins.
Yeah.
They're not mounted in a lifelike position, but they are the whole bird, the whole critter, but they're usually mounted in such a way that you can fill up a drawer of these. Mm-hmm. Why do we have them? Well, this is the scientific aspect, where this might be an aesthetic aspect. Maybe you're into bird art and you want to study the bird so you can sketch it, or maybe you're an illustrator working on a field guide and you want to be able to see the colors, the shapes of the bird to make more realistic depictions. These contain the scientific information that is really essential for those people that study birds, the
Right.
ornithologists, and other people that are interested in what types of information the birds can provide. So they are a pretty simple formula in which it is the actual bird, an incision has been made sort of from one end to the other, it's been peeled back.
Which is fantastic because it does not even look like that.
Doesn't smell. And the skeleton's taken out, all the meat's taken out, fat, moisture is all taken out, and then it's filled with usually some sort of cotton batting,
Okay.
and then sewn back up, and then just let to air dry, so it looks like the bird.
Yeah.
Now, this study skin may not be the most important aspect. It's the data, the scientific information that comes with it. So the taxidermist, when she's preparing this, she is going to take the weight, she's going to take a series of measurements.
Wow.
She will be able to identify the reproductive organs to see if they're mature or immature or fertile or ready to lay eggs.
Oh yeah, look, ovary, it has even the measurements of that. Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so all of that information will give you a personal history of this specimen.
Okay.
Why these are important is because they have information that can tell you the life history of an individual bird. And if you study multiple birds, that can give you information about the species as a whole, or maybe a particular region or a particular point in time. So in addition to the data and in addition to this bird, there are also other lines of information or data that are in this animal. So you might be able to take DNA sections.
Wow.
To compare that with other populations or look at evolution over time. I've seen people be able to take DNA from the skin of this animal that originally was infected by a type of virus, like bird flu, for example. So people that are studying bird flu have been able to successfully extract DNA from these to look at how the bird flu virus has changed over time, for example.
Interesting.
It also gives us a place in time. So if we are looking at how a species is declining or how a species might be spreading after it's on the protected list, having this information, this is sort of like having evidence in a court of law. It'll be that point in time to be able again to look at other museums and other collections for, if we're studying the great horned owl here, will be able to show us maybe changes in their migration pattern. isotopes that are in different types of food, how their diet has changed, what types of habitats they used to live in.
Yeah.
So much information can be gained from these, which is why they are really the staple of most natural history museums. People love looking at the beautiful mounted birds in their lifelike pose, but if you want real information that can be applied scientifically, it's the study skins and the data that goes with those study skins.
Understood. Now, of course, aside from research, why are these specific birds here on the table today so important since, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're still flying around Riverside?
They are still flying around Riverside. These are all species that are native to Riverside. Some of them have been collected outside of city limits, but these are all our species here. But how did we get them? People always wonder, well, did you go out and shoot the bird? And that's what natural historians used to do in the olden days. And people always feel bad, oh, you had to shoot that bird to get it. But if you look at how many million acres of habitat are destroyed every year just by warehouses, you get an idea of, well...
Getting paper.
Yes.
Yeah.
Back in the Victorian heyday, there weren't many rules and regulations about collecting. So there was, most museums have hundreds, if not hundreds of thousands of specimens from the 1800s, early 1900s, oftentimes fewer today, and that's because fortunately all of these species are protected by law. Raptors are protected by law, even little finches are protected by the Migratory Bird Act, which is one of the first major environmental laws that was passed in the early 1900s. So in order to collect these, we have to have a permit from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. So we get some of these as roadkill, or birds that have flown into people's windows and died. We get a large number of these birds from wildlife hospitals that unfortunately may not have survived. And so we have good associations with these hospitals, and they will save the birds. They will write down the address where it came from, contact information if we need more info. And that's where we get these. So these haven't been shot, but unfortunately these have died more or less through the hands of humans in one way or another. But even in death, all of these can be put to scientific use.
So yeah, kind of walk us through what we have here on the table.
So we have a variety of some of the different species of birds that are found within Riverside. This is just a sample. This is a red-shouldered hawk. It's one of our medium-sized hawks. This one is, I see these in my neighborhood. There's a nesting pair there. They're called red-shouldered hawks because they have this sort of reddish brown on the shoulder. We have red-tailed hawks that are much larger, and then we have Cooper's hawks and kestrels and other smaller raptors. This is one that I really like. This is a scrub jay, California scrub jay. I like them because they're sassy and they're loud and they're very smart. This is one that you probably hear more than see. This is a great horned owl.
Yeah.
And all of these, when the taxidermist prepares them, she will take measurements and make sure when they are put back together that they are the same size than when they were taken apart to be processed for the taxidermy.
Yeah, that's quite detailed because like I said, even
process.
To my naked eye, it's like there is no incision line, no even sign of anything happening.
Well, that means that you have a good taxidermist. This is a roadrunner, a greater roadrunner. This is a species that used to be found pretty widely throughout Riverside, and unfortunately they are very susceptible to habitat change from humans, and so they've been declining throughout the Inland Empire, unfortunately. This is a species that is very abundant right now in early winter. This is what's called a cedar waxwing, and you see this strange little feather here that looks like and the little tips that look like they're waxy.
Yeah.
That's how they get their name. You'll see these in flocks, in my neighborhood, flocks of up to 20 to over 100.
Wow.
And then another little migratory bird. This is a gold-crowned sparrow, and you see the little gold crown there. And then we have a species that's relatively common in some of the lakes around here. This is a bufflehead. Males have a beautiful black and white crest, and this is the female here, which I think she has a...
She's still beautiful.
Yes, intriguing beauty to her.
What is the ultimate use of these?
Ultimately, these specimens, like all museum specimens, are for tracking and understanding biodiversity through time. So looking at owls that were collected in the 1920s or 1820s or 20 years from now, you might see very interesting environmental changes, both positive and negative. And having more specimens and more museums gives you more data and ultimately more rigid foundation on understanding the change that we're seeing in our habitats in Riverside County.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time, and I'm certainly going to look at birds these days a little differently, right? And thank you guys so much for watching. I'm excited to see what we have next inside the vault.